Part 58. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 609. There is no doubt that the triple super artillery was destroyed. The super fort on the right front also lost its combat effectiveness. Okay, I'm going to use this method to destroy all these scary giant artillery. Bellamy quickly left the super fort. He started heading towards the other super batteries. Bellamy will destroy these 4 super forts no matter what. Just as Bellamy was operating at the giant offshore dock, in the port area, Sanji and the King of Ninja learned from Zoro and Usopp that Rogue and Luffy had been hit hard. They then quickly found Rogue and Luffy, who had been knocked down, and checked the injuries they had sustained. Everyone from the Iruyama United Army also came to help. Rogue and Luffy were carried on the stretcher, and the two were treated diligently by the ship's doctor from the Saracen Alliance Army. "How are they doing?" Mont Blanc asked the ship's doctor. The ship's doctor looked anxious. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Both people have suffered a lot of internal injuries. But their bodies are very strong and can withstand these injuries. There is no problem in saving their lives. But they will be comatose for a long time. And we need to give them some healthy medicine and food to take good care of themselves for a while." Usopp stood beside the two of them and prayed, "Roger and Luffy, you must hold on." Sanji looked towards the giant offshore dock. "Bellamy seems to be wreaking havoc there," Sanji said as he looked at the giant creature. "It seems like he is detonating something," Zoro said strangely. Immediately afterwards, there was another earth-shaking explosion. Boom, 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 boom. A deafening violent explosion came from the super fort on the left front of the giant offshore dock. The apes, orangutans, and Mont Blanc Kulik all looked at the super fort on the left front above the giant offshore dock. This super fort had the same strange explosion as the super fort on the right front just now. "It's that kind of explosion again," the man-ape said as he looked at the super fort in front of him on the left. "It seems that he is really destroying the super fort," the orangutan said with a worried look on his face. Mont Blanc Kulik walked to the front of the crowd. From the land at the port, he looked at the super fort on the left front of the giant offshore dock. "Based on the situation just now, Bellamy wants to destroy these super forts. If these super forts are lost, this giant offshore dock will lose its combat effectiveness," Mont Blanc Kulik said with a serious face. It's going to be so miserable," Usopp asked Mont Blanc Kulik worriedly. Mont Blanc Kulik lowered his face. "The giant offshore dock itself is extremely strong and difficult to destroy. However, its moving speed is also relatively slow. The core of maintaining its combat effectiveness is the 4 super forts. Once these 4 super forts are destroyed, the giant offshore dock will become turned into a huge floating hull. It basically lost its combat capability," Mont Blanc Kulik said in a heavy tone. "From the current situation, it seems that Bellamy is indeed destroying the super forts, and it is already unstoppable." Usopp looked at the super turret on the right front of the giant sea dock, and then looked at the super turret on the left front. Although these 2 super forts obviously have Bellamy doing tricks inside, but there are still no signs of damage from the outside. The terrible explosions that came from the 2 super forts just now, could it be that Bellamy detonated those terrible giant shells inside? Usopp said in shock. Mont Blanc Kulik looked at the giant offshore dock and said, "It's very possible. But if that happens, if those super heavy artillery shells in the ammunition room of the super fort are detonated, then Bellamy will also be affected. And the super fort, it will also be completely destroyed. But it seems that these 2 super forts are still intact. What kind of damage did Bellamy cause inside?" Everyone here at the port was puzzled. What exactly did Bellamy do? What kind of internal damage was done to the super forts? Others in the ninja dynasty said, "I'll go take a look." The Ninja King quickly took out 2 water spiders from the bag on his waist. Water spiders are special shoes used by ninjas to walk on the water. They are very large and require the ninja to have skilled and powerful martial arts to be able to walk flexibly on the sea. The Ninja King quickly pierced the two water spiders with his feet. He jumped from the shore into the water. The Ninja King combines ghostly footwork with water spiders to walk on the sea. Seeing the action of the King of Ninja, the orangutan sighed and said, "What a powerful ability. I also want to have this ability." The orangutan looked at the orangutan and said, "How about we take the King of Ninja brothers as our disciples in the future?" The King of Ninja quickly used the water spider to walk smoothly in the sea water towards the giant offshore dock. Arriving at the side of the giant offshore dock, the King of Ninja quickly put away the water spider. With his own climbing ability, he climbed up the side of the giant offshore dock as quickly as a spider. The Ninja King quickly climbed to the top deck of the giant offshore dock. When the Ninja King arrived on the top deck of the giant offshore dock, suddenly there was a violent explosion from the super turret on the left rear of the giant offshore dock. Boom, 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 a violent explosion sounded from the super fort on the left rear. The explosion sounded like muffled thunder. The Ninja King looked towards the super turret on the left rear. Could it be that this place has also been destroyed? The Ninja King quickly rushed to the super fort on the left rear. I rushed to the super fort on the left rear because it was impossible to enter the super fort from the outside. So the King of Ninja quickly found a passageway to get down into the cabin and entered the inner cabin of the giant offshore dock. After entering the inner cabin, the Ninja King quickly moved towards the super fort on the left rear. After some marching, the Ninja King finally reached the passage that allowed him to enter the super fort at the rear left. In the passage, the Ninja King also saw two horrific corpses with bloody flesh. The clothes of the two corpses were obviously crew members of the Sarushan United Army, but they seemed to have been killed by some huge force. The corpses were beaten to a bloody pulp. After Bellamy arrived here, he apparently killed the crew members who were sentrying here. The Ninja King reached the inside of the super fort through the passage. The power room on the top floor was empty and intact. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 611. The Ninja King moved quickly away. Bellamy's double spring cannon punches missed the target, but tore apart the surrounding air. Chiang the ninja sword in the Ninja King's hand struck Bellamy on the back of the neck with one blow. However, due to the obstruction of the armed domineering force, there were only bursts of sparks. Damn it! Bellamy hit the Ninja King on the head with the right hook. The Ninja King jerked back, avoiding the oncoming attack. Bellamy suddenly raised his right leg high and turned it into a giant spring. Spring legs. Bellamy's spring legs began to sweep towards the Ninja King's upper body. The Ninja King squatted down suddenly, dodging the spring-legged sweep. Bellamy retracted his spring legs and tightened them as much as possible. Another attack. This blow was extremely powerful, comparable to an artillery shell. The Ninja King turned two somersaults in quick succession to avoid the attack. Dang! Bellamy's spring leg hit the steel on the floor of the fire room, but the steel here was still very strong, and Bellamy's armed and domineering spring leg only caused a few cracks. The steel of the super fort itself is made of fine steel, which is many times stronger than the steel of other hull parts of the giant offshore dock. The Ninja King continued to move with his ghostly footwork and kept attacking Bellamy. Explosive shuriken. The Ninja King threw two shurikens with gunpowder in the center and hit Bellamy's body. Boom, 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 boom. Bellamy was covered in the fire and smoke of the explosion. But this is still not a decent kill for Bellamy, who is closely protected by armed haki. Bellamy attacked wildly, but even if he moved with spring resonance, he was almost always escaped by the King of Ninjas smoothly. In this case, let you try this again. Bellamy's arms turned into giant springs. However, he did not attack with a punch, but instead faced each other with his arms and fists. Bellamy is going to use the spring air blast again. The King of Ninja looked at Bellamy, and he secretly screamed. The spring air explosion has a large range and can impact the surrounding area indiscriminately. In this way, the Ninja King himself has nowhere to hide. In the fierce battle in the port area before, the Ninja King suffered from this attack. But the Ninja King quickly thought of something. He saw a vertical cylindrical passage in the center of the fire room connected to the ammunition room below. This is the passage through which the lifting tower transports the super heavy artillery shells below. The Ninja King quickly hid in this passage. He hid in the ammunition room in the middle through this passage. Boom, the Ninja King heard a violent explosion in the fire room above. Faced with Bellamy, a difficult enemy, the Ninja King also felt troubled. How to destroy him, the Ninja King thought. While thinking, the Ninja King looked at the huge super heavy artillery shells in the ammunition room. These super heavy artillery shells are giant artillery shells with a diameter of 2 meters. Even if there is no super artillery, they can produce amazing explosive power and destructive power when detonated on the spot. That huge destructive power can definitely destroy the entire super fort. Thinking of this, the Ninja King's mind suddenly lit up. He had a way to deal with Bellamy. The King of Ninja took out a discus the size of a plate from the bag on his waist. This discus also had a mechanical clock device on it. This is a time bomb made by the Ninja King. The King of Ninja looked at the super heavy artillery shells here, and he adjusted the mechanical clock device on the discus time bomb. After adjusting the pointer to reach 0 for 3 minutes, the Ninja King pressed the switch. Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. Discus timing the countdown to the bomb begins. The Ninja King quickly left here and headed up the stairs to the power room on the lower level. After arriving at the power room, the Ninja King quickly left the passage out of the super fort and walked down to the lower cabin inside the giant offshore dock. Now the further away from here the better, both horizontally and vertically. In this way, once the super fort explodes, he can effectively avoid being affected. In the fire room on the top floor of the super turret, after Bellamy used the spring air blast, he discovered that the King of Ninja had disappeared. Damn it, where did this kid go? Bellamy looked around. He saw a cylindrical passage in the center of the fire room, which could lead to the ammunition room below. Bellamy also walked to the side of this cylindrical passage, and jumped down. Bellamy arrived in the ammunition room in the middle. He looked around but found no sign of the Ninja King. Could it be that he ran away from here? Bellamy said strangely. At this time, he heard a ticking sound. Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. Bellamy said in this way the sound was heard in a room filled with giant cannonballs. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart for a while. What does this mean? This is most likely that kind of terrible weapon. Bellamy quickly followed the sound and finally found the bomb behind a super heavy artillery shell. I saw that the pointer on the clock mechanism on this discus-like time bomb was constantly moving towards the 0 position. It can be seen that the explosion time here was only less than half a minute. Oops! Bellamy was filled with fear as if facing death. Always crazy, he also showed timidity in the face of death. If this time bomb explodes here, it will be enough to detonate a large number of super heavy artillery shells here. At that time, Bellamy couldn't survive even if his whole body was covered with powerful armed color hacking. While Bellamy was feeling fear and shock, the death pointer moved a little closer to the 0 point. If this is the case, this is the only way Bellamy had the last resort at this critical moment. This is also the only way. Bellamy raised the discus time bomb with both hands, and then a force field covered it. The domineering color of black metallic luster covered the discus time bomb. The discus time bomb is tightly covered by the domineering color of black metallic luster. At this time, Bellamy mobilized his body functions to the highest level, and the armed domination covering the discus time bomb was astonishingly strong. In addition to covering the human body to strengthen the body, armed haki can also be covered on weapons outside the body, so that the weapons used can be strengthened. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 612. There was absolutely not enough time for Bellamy to escape. Now you can only cover the discus time bomb with armed color hacking. If the discus time bomb explodes, it will also explode in the armed color hacking. The discus time bomb covered in armed domineering still kept making a ticking sound like it was heading toward death. Bellamy was concentrating, and the armed domineering covering of the discus time bomb he held in his hand was the only guarantee for his survival. He is not afraid of this bomb, but once the bomb detonates the swarms of super heavy artillery shells here, he will definitely die without a burial place. Tick-tock, 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 click, boom. A muffled sound covered the armed color of the discus time bomb reacts violently. But in the end, the powerful explosive power of the discus time bomb still failed to break through the armed domineering force. After the explosion, the shape of the discus time bomb quickly became shattered, and the armed domineering energy attached to it was also removed by Bellamy. A group of tiny broken pieces of metal fell to the ground. The powerful discus time bomb detonated in a space the size of itself, only to turn itself into a group of small fragments. Seeing the small metal fragments of the time bomb on the ground, Bellamy breathed a sigh of relief. "It's okay," Bellamy said, as if he was reborn after death. He was even more happy when he looked at his hands now. It was precisely because of his powerful armed domination that he avoided death here. No matter how powerful an ability is, it depends on how it is used. In this case, Bellamy directly used armed color haki to restrain the discus time bomb, avoiding a series of explosions. His armed domineering power can prevent discus time bombs, but it cannot prevent the explosion of so many super heavy artillery shells. Bellamy, who successfully resolved the crisis, thought that this must be the conspiracy of the Ninja King. Humph, anyway, now I have successfully destroyed the ace weapon of this giant offshore dock. It's better to retreat quickly. Anyway, I will definitely eliminate these guys in the future. Bellamy decided to hurry up retreat. By successfully wiping out the super forts, he had accomplished his huge goal. Without the threat of the powerful firepower of this giant offshore dock, he can dispatch his pirate fleet to fight in future battles. Bellamy first reached the power room at the bottom, and then he began to leave the super fort. Bellamy arrived in the cabin inside the giant offshore dock. He then quickly found his way up to the top deck. Bellamy finally reached the top deck. In the cabin inside the giant offshore dock. After the Ninja King placed the discus time bomb just now, he kept hiding deeper. But now the time has long passed, and as a result, no explosion has been heard. The Ninja King felt strange. The discus time bomb he planted was so powerful that it could definitely detonate those super heavy artillery shells. If there was such a huge explosion, apart from the sound, even this giant offshore dock would feel a certain amount of vibration. But none of this happened, so the Ninja King was also surprised. On the top deck of a giant offshore dock, Bellamy stood here, looking towards the port area. At this time, Usopp, Mont Blanc, Kulik, the apes and orangutans, many of them were paying attention to the movements of the giant offshore dock. A total of 4 consecutive explosions occurred, the orangutan said, looking at the giant offshore dock. Bellamy is really destroying these super forts, the orangutan said with a very ugly expression. I wonder if the King of Ninja can stop him, Usopp said thoughtfully. At this moment, a high-pitched voice suddenly came from the top deck of the giant offshore dock. Ha ha ha, you failed. Everyone in the port area changed their faces after hearing this. That was exactly what Bellamy roared. Usopp and Mont Blanc Kulik looked at the top deck of the giant offshore dock. This guy, Mont Blanc Kulik said as he looked at Bellamy on the top deck of the giant offshore dock. It seems that the King of Ninja has not been able to destroy him, Usopp said with a serious face. Bellamy stood on the top deck of the giant offshore dock. Bellamy was now disarmed and his upper body was naked, revealing his toned and strong bronze muscles. Bellamy's short blonde hair fluttered in the sea breeze, and his crazy eyes looked towards the port area, full of pride. Chi, Bellamy's tongue stuck out and licked around his mouth. Now Bellamy looked down at the hundreds of people in the port area, and he looked down at everyone with a victor's attitude. Bellamy continued to roar towards the port area. Mont Blanc Kulik and the guys from the Ape Mountain Alliance Army, now I have to tell you good news. Now the giant artillery on the 4 turrets of this giant offshore dock are all I destroyed it, ha ha ha. Everyone in the port area had different expressions. He really destroyed the super forts, Mont Blanc Kulik said with a bad expression. Although he already had psychological expectations, Mont Blanc Kulik was trembling all over. After all, those super forts are the most powerful weapons of the giant offshore dock and the most powerful weapon of the Saracen United Army. The destruction of the super forts is a huge loss to the Saracen United Army. Bellamy's behavior made Mont Blanc Kulik feel pain and regret. The super forts have been destroyed, the orangutan said with a sad face. Our trump card weapons have all been destroyed, the ape said with a stern expression. Usopp's face was also very ugly. He said in surprise, all those powerful super forts were destroyed by him. For a time, people in the port area were panicked. Bellamy's behavior had a huge psychological impact on people. Bellamy stood on the top deck of the giant offshore dock. He looked at the people in the port area. He could feel a huge sense of fear emanating from the people. I will let you go today, and then I will kill you completely. If you don't want to continue to die, then get out of the waters around Gaia Island. This is an ultimatum. Bellamy gave everyone a final warning. After Bellamy finished speaking, he turned his legs into giant springs, which were then compressed to the extreme. After his spring legs were compressed to the extreme, he aimed his body at a coastline in the southern direction of Demon Valley City. Spring rocket. Bellamy's legs popped open, and his whole body rose into the air like a rocket, quickly flying towards the coastline south of Demon Valley City. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 613. People in the port area saw Bellamy leaving. Mont Blanc Kulik saw Bellamy flying away from here like a rocket. He said with a heavy heart, a more brutal battle will begin in the future. The apes and orangutans also had heavy faces. They knew exactly what Bellamy would do in the future. From now on, the Bellamy pirates will enter a state of war with the Saruyama United Army. Our good days are gone from now on. That terrible Bellamy will destroy us. The super fort has been destroyed, we can't deal with him. Not only is Bellamy powerful, I heard that Bellamy is Lamy's men are also a very scary group of guys. We are doomed for a time. The members of the Saruyama United Army were all panic-stricken and fell into chaos. Bellamy showed great strength during the battle just now, which frightened the crew members of the Saruyama United Army. In addition, he explained that the super forts had been destroyed, which made the crew members of the Saruyama United Army lose all fighting spirit. At the giant sea dock, the Ninja King came to the top deck from a passage. He also noticed something was wrong, but by this time Bellamy had already left. It seems that all 4 super forts were destroyed by him, the Ninja King said as he looked around the top deck. The Ninja King looked towards the port area, and then quickly returned to the port area. In the port area, everyone was anxious. Bellamy's attack caused everyone to be seriously threatened. Everyone felt an unprecedented threat. Bellamy had such great strength and was a huge danger to everyone. Many crew members of the Saruyama Alliance thought they had won by defeating the Grandet forces, but now Bellamy had an even bigger headache. Moreover, many of the crew members of the Saruyama Alliance just hate Grandet. Now that Grandet is finally dead, they all have no object of hatred. In the past, an important factor in the growth of the Saras Mountain United Army was that many forces that were oppressed by Grandet joined the Saras Mountain United Army and followed Mont Blanc Kulik because they hated Grandet. However, after the death of Grandet and the appearance of the terrifying and powerful Bellamy, many people in the Aru Mountain Alliance retreated. Mont Blanc Kulik saw this and looked at the others. Everyone, let's take a rest first. Especially treat the injured, Mont Blanc Kulik said to everyone. This time dozens of people including Rogue and Luffy and some of the Saracen alliance were injured. Because treatment was needed, all the Sarushan United military ship doctors present took action. After Bellamy jumped to the coastline south of Demon Valley City, he met up with the small ship waiting for him. Bellamy jumped onto the deck of the small ship and looked at the crew members who looked respectfully at him. "Welcome to Captain's triumphant return." Many crew members warmly welcomed Bellamy. Bellamy looked at his men very comfortably. "Okay, everyone, let's quickly take out some rum and celebrate together." Bellamy waved his hand and said to his crew members. The crew members quickly brought out the ice-cold rum stored in the small refrigerator and gave it to Bellamy. Bellamy grabbed a bottle of ice-cold rum. He pulled the cork off the bottle and put the spout of the rum bottle to his mouth. "Goodong, goodong, 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 goodong. Bellamy will be pleasantly surprised. The cold rum in my heart poured down my throat." Bellamy let out a long sigh of relief as he drank an entire bottle of ice-cold rum down his throat. "It's cool," Bellamy said cheerfully. The crew members looked at Bellamy, and one of them said respectfully, "Captain, you have returned with a great victory this time." Bellamy looked at him, and then said, "It's a little worse than expected. But it's not satisfactory. Anyway, the 4 forts at the giant offshore dock have lost their combat effectiveness this time. The most powerful support of the Sarushan United Army has been destroyed. Now that the Sarushan United Army has lost the super artillery at the giant offshore dock, the 4 super forts will become without the decorations. The entire giant offshore dock would be nothing more than a huge ship hull." The Aruyama United Army was attacked by Bellamy. Although not many people died, the most deterrent weapon was destroyed. After hearing this, the crew members in front of Bellamy were full of praise. "Well done, Captain. Without those forts, we have nothing to fear. With the efforts of the captain and everyone, we will be able to completely control the city. Long live Captain Bellamy, long live the Bellamy Pirates." The more than 20 crew members all looked at Bellamy with compliments. Bellamy looked at them and said nothing. "Okay, let me ask how Sakis, Rebus, and Eddie are doing with their affairs." Bellamy then asked. "Lord Rebus just came to report. He has successfully dealt with the Demon Valley City Guard force," a crew member reported. The crew member then reported, "Lord Sarkis also successfully subdued the security forces." Bellamy nodded after hearing this, and said, "If the armed forces are under control, then the matter is mostly successful." "Ai, how is he doing?" the crew member continued to report. "Sir Eddie also came to report before. He said that he had subdued all the cotters of the 4 major industries." After Bellamy listened, he said, "Now the devil, the economic lifeline of Valley City, also belongs to us. In this way, both force and money are under our control." Bellamy looked in the direction of Demon Valley City again, and he said, "Sure enough, this prosperous city still got it deserves a new owner." Bellamy stuck his tongue out of his mouth again and licked around the mouth. Bellamy finally caught the huge prey of Demon Valley City in his mouth like a hunting dog. But no matter how powerful Bellamy is, he still has some obstacles that prevent him from swallowing his prey completely. That is the Sarushan United Army and the helpers of the Sarushan United Army. In this battle, Bellamy basically didn't have much results in terms of killing the opponent's personnel except for injuring Rogue and Luffy. As for the ordinary crew members of the Saruyama United Army who were involved in casualties, it can be said that they have zero impact on the overall battle situation. But this time at least the threat of the giant offshore dock has been eliminated. Without those terrifying super artillery pieces, Bellamy felt a lot more at ease. Bellamy made up his mind to completely eliminate the Saruyama United Army and its helpers from now on. Bellamy ordered the crew again, "Okay, let's go back to our base." Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 614. As ordered, the crew members of the Bellamy Pirates said. The small ship carrying Bellamy headed towards his base at the Reef Island in the northeastern area of Gaia Island. It gradually started to get late again. In the morning and noon before, shocking fighting and bloodshed occurred in Demon Valley City. The Bellamy pirates' power has already taken over the main body of Grande's original power to some extent. A new power was established in Demon Valley City. Despite countless massacres before, this city still has not achieved true peace. In the port area of Magic Valley City. Because he was suddenly attacked by Bellamy before, for safety reasons. Most of the people of the Saracen United Army retreated to the giant offshore dock. After all, this huge offshore dock is always a maritime fortress that is difficult to be breached by outside forces. Rog, who was originally resting in the hotel in the city, and Nami and Chopper who were looking after her were later picked up by Sanji and the Ninja King. In a cabin inside a giant offshore dock. Chopper is healing Roger and Luffy. After Chopper came back, he learned that Rog and Luffy were injured and immediately took charge of the treatment himself. Don't move around during this period. You'd better stay in bed, Chopper said after checking Rog's body. Although Rog and Luffy had suffered considerable injuries before, their bodies were strong and they quickly regained consciousness. Rog looked at Chopper and said, "Then you can always sit up," Chopper said to Rog, "as long as you don't exercise strenuously." At this time, a sound of gobbling came over. Awoo, 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 awoo. Logo Grid and Chopper saw Luffy eating food brought by other crew members on a bed nearby. It's delicious. Everything tastes delicious. After being injured, Luffy stuffed the bread, meat, and fruit from the groups of wooden barrels in front of him into his mouth, and drank large bottles of water and beer from time to time. He's still greedy, Rog said with a wry smile. Luffy really can't live without food, Chopper said helplessly. Luffy, the big eater, can only think about eating delicious food before, after, and even during the battle. Meat, in particular, is Luffy's strongest source of strength. Chopper said to Rog again, "Both you and Luffy suffered some internal injuries, which were caused by the shock. But after my treatment, you can pay attention to taking more medicine in the next few days fully recovered. And be careful not to do strenuous activities." "No problem," Rog said. Chopper looked at Luffy again and said, "Did you hear it too, Luffy?" "Ah, awoo, 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 awoo." Luffy looked at Chopper and said strangely. Chopper said with shame, "Oh my god, he only has food in his eyes." Inside the super fort on the left rear of the giant offshore dock. Mont Blanc Kulik inspected the conditions inside the super fort with humans and orangutans. The three of them stood in the fire room on the top floor. What was in front of them were three super artillery pieces that had been destroyed by the explosion. The three 2-meter diameter super cannons were all damaged by explosions at the rear of the barrel. The barrels were twisted and had a large number of cracks. In this case, it cannot be used anyway. Seeing these destroyed super artillery pieces, Mont Blanc Kulik looked very ugly. You must know that these super artillery are the real source of the combat power of the giant offshore dock. All super forts are the same. The super artillery has been destroyed by bombing. Mont Blanc Kulik looked at the super artillery whose chambers were blown and said with a frown. The orangutan looked at the super cannons whose barrels were destroyed by explosions, and he said, "How did Bellamy do it?" The orangutan reached the breech loading area of a destroyed super cannon and opened the cover. Sure enough, there are traces of shell explosions here. There are also some broken shells of super heavy shells. The other party must have placed several super heavy shells here in succession and then fired. This resulted in violent explosions and damage, the orangutan said after observing the situation inside the barrel. They actually used this method to destroy the barrel of the gun. The man-ape was surprised, and he also walked to the breech of the barrel to observe closely. Mont Blanc Kulik looked at the destroyed super cannons. Without these super artillery, the super turrets are just decorations and have no effect. This giant offshore dock also loses its powerful combat capabilities, Mont Blanc Kulik said regretfully. The orangutan turned his head and looked at Mont Blanc Kulik. He said, "Boss, don't be so downcast. Can't we find a way to repair these super artillery?" Mont Blanc Kulik looked at him and said seriously, "Then it is really more difficult than climbing to the sky." First of all, based on the sturdiness of these super artillery installations on these super forts, we can't even disassemble them. And even if they can be disassembled, then we have to repair such a huge super artillery requires a very large-scale steel-making plant and a large number of top-notch military talents. So how such a thing is made is difficult to understand. After hearing this, the ape was like a deflated ball. He looked at the super artillery that had been destroyed by the explosion. According to the former captain, this giant offshore dock comes from the Western Sea region. Historically, there are legends that there are mysterious and powerful shipbuilders there. They can build amazingly huge ships, the ape said after remembering something. But then the man-ape's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said to Mont Blanc Kulik, "Boss, I have it. I heard that there is a super shipbuilding company called Carrera Company in the city of Seven Waters on the Grand Route. Whether it is both heavy warships and large civilian merchant ships can be built. How about we go there?" Mont Blanc Kulik waved his hands upon hearing this and said, "Definitely not. I also know the Carrera Company you are talking about. It is a shipbuilding company. A large shipbuilding enterprise with world-renowned capabilities. But it has always been expensive to recover there. And such a huge offshore dock will definitely cause an uproar there. Maybe it will cause some forces to focus on this big guy. Furthermore, if we are not far away, what to do when we go there, Gaia Island and Magic Valley City? Even if we successfully repair this giant maritime dock, Bellamy will have completely and firmly controlled Magic Valley City when we come back. That guys like Sideburns will take the opportunity to kill countless people. The purpose of this giant offshore dock is to help us defeat the powerful. So we cannot leave. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 615. After Mont Blanc Kulik said this, the orangutan also sighed. Indeed, we can't leave this Demon Valley City now, the ape said helplessly. The orangutan looked at Mont Blanc Kulik and said, "Boss, although we have lost these super forts, we still have a power that is absolutely as powerful as them." Mont Blanc Kulik looked at the orangutan and said, "Oh, what's the power you're talking about?" The orangutan said with a hint of excitement on his face, "That's Rogue and Zorro, the friends of the Straw Hat Pirates. Now they have decided to help us all the time. This way. To a certain extent, we have gained more power than this giant offshore dock. Just imagine, without their help in this battle, we would have been killed by Bellamy long ago. If everyone is gone, how can we still exist? Therefore, they played an unimaginable role in the hope of victory." "You are right," Mont Blanc Kulik said earnestly. "The previous battle with Bellamy relied entirely on the heroic fighting of Rogue and Zorro, as well as Luffy, Sanji and others, which made Bellamy's goal of destroying the Saruyama Alliance army in vain. Otherwise, not only the super fort of the giant offshore dock will be destroyed, but also all members of the Saracen United Army will be wiped out by Bellamy. Those young warriors of the Straw Hat Pirates are worth thousands of troops. With partners like this helping us, we can still continue to fight against the powerful Bellamy. So." Mont Blanc Kulik suddenly became energetic. "There's nothing to be afraid of," the burly man with chestnuts on his head said loudly. "Have courage for us," the ape said with great morale. "Bellamy is very powerful, but we have brave young friends," the orangutan said excitedly. "Although the situation faced by the Aruyama United Army is not optimistic, a powerful enemy has just been eliminated, and a more difficult enemy has appeared. However, we also have Rogue and Zorro from the Straw Hat Pirates on our side, a group of good helpers who are full of passion and have strong strength." Mont Blanc Kulik looked at the orangutans, and said, "Okay, at night I will use the radio phone bug to broadcast throughout the giant offshore dock. It can effectively boost our morale." "Okay," said the ape and orangutan together. They are all very aware of Mont Blanc Kulik's powerful ability in speeches. Above the top deck of the giant offshore dock, the Ninja King and Zoro stood here, practicing martial arts. Now there are more and more stars in the sky. The incomplete moon is also hanging high in the sky. Standing on the top deck of the giant offshore dock, you can see the magnificent scenery around you. Whether it's the vast sea or the dimly lit Demon Valley City, you can take in everything. On the top deck, the Ninja King and Sauron each wielded their ninja swords and katanas and conducted their own training. As warriors, they would feel uncomfortable even if they did not conduct combat training for just one day. The reason why warriors are strong is because of their hard training in daily life and the desperate breakthroughs in actual combat, which enable them to grow step by step. The King of Ninja not only practiced using the ninja sword, he also took out his armor hook and practiced short-range attacks. In addition, the Ninja King also conducts fist and kick training. The Ninja King himself is proficient in many martial arts. Of course these are climbing, sneaking, and penetration-style martial arts. After all, the King of Ninja is an elite disciple of the Wano Country Ninja Organization, so the relevant martial arts he learns are naturally related to ninjas. Zoro waved the 3 katana swords in his hand. Zoro went from 1 sword style, then 2 sword style, and then to his most proud 3 sword style. Every sword skill is trained to the greatest extent by Zoro. Zoro's favorite is the 3-sword style swordsmanship that he is good at. There are many swordsmen in this world who use 1 sword and 2 swords. But a man like Zoro who also uses his mouth to successfully wield 3 samurai swords and frequently create miracles is extremely rare in the world. In the eyes of others, Zoro would bite his own teeth into pieces if he held the hilt of the katana in his mouth. However, through years of hard training, Zoro developed the ability to hold the katana in his mouth skillfully. A sword for his mouth, a sword for each hand, these 3 swords allow Zoro to move forward on the road of swordsmanship unstoppably. He has been moving towards the ultimate goal in his heart, the world's greatest swordsman. Zoro, who had fought Hawkeye to the death, not only did not lose heart, but the huge scar on his chest made him even more brave and enterprising. The King of Ninja is also very hard-working. Although he is taciturn most of the time, he always has that kind of strong motivation in his heart. That is to revive the ninja organization he belongs to. Once upon a time, the ninja organization from which the King of Ninjas came was the #1 ninja gang in Wano. However, due to an unexpected battle 100 years ago, all the elite members died. This caused the once glorious ninja gang to plummet. The King of Ninja has been taught by his master since he was a child that he must one day revitalize this once great gang. With this kind of motivation, the Ninja King worked hard to develop his skills. Zoro and the Ninja King both said nothing and each carried out powerful and hard training. Under the waning moon and stars, the giant offshore dock was dimly illuminated. The nearby sea moved slightly under the weak sea breeze, and fish jumped out from time to time on the sparkling sea and then jumped back into the water. Not far away, Magic Valley City is brightly lit. Even though it has been frequently affected by wars and turmoil recently, this bustling transit trade port city is still lively. The entire Gaia Island has entered the tranquility of the night. A reef island in the northeastern area of Gaia Island. The majestic warships at the port of this island formed by a small reef are always protected by patrol boats coming and going. There are also a considerable number of crew members on the warships who are ready at any time. Any emergencies must be responded to in a timely manner. In the magnificent castle on the reef island. Inside a conference room in the castle. Bellamy sat here, discussing with his crew. The people present were Rebus, Sakis, and Eddie. The 3 generals sat closest to Bellamy, and Bellamy saw that the 3 of them were very satisfied with their work. We have been able to achieve such great results because of your hard work. You are truly worthy of being my top 3 generals. Bellamy proudly praised Sakis and the 3 of them. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 616. Boss Bellamy, this is something we must complete, Sakis said calmly. By the way, there were some people in the security force who had a thorn in their necks, but I killed him. The other people were as scared as dogs and didn't dare to say a word. Ha ha ha. Basi said proudly. Oh, Rebus, you also have a thorn on your side. I thought you did it very easily. Sakis glanced at Rebus and said. Rebus looked at Sakis, and he said with some dissatisfaction, you seem to be mocking me. Sakis said, when I dealt with the security forces, their leaders always confronted me. Even the top leaders, they are diehards. Do you think this is difficult to solve? Rebus just snorted. It was indeed the matter that Sakis faced was more difficult. Bellamy looked at the two of them and said, okay, you two, stop being vindictive. Both Sakis and Rebus are great contributors. Bellamy then looked at Eddie. We have successfully recaptured the cadres of the four major industries. In this case, we will control the economic lifeline of Magic Valley City. Bellamy looked at Eddie and said. Eddie looked at Bellamy and said, those four industrial cadres are really glib. They have no principles when they see profit. I will continue to monitor these people closely. But now we have a huge advantage. As long as we can control this port city in terms of combat power, then everything is still ours. In addition to the cadres of the four major industries, I also sent people to quickly notify the magicians who were originally under Grandet's orders. Those administrative agencies in Valley City. They also adapt to the situation and are all loyal to us. After hearing this, Bellamy raised his thumbs up to Eddie and said, well done, you really deserve to be Bellamy High. The senior staff officer of the thieves, Eddie said to Bellamy, there is another very important thing. Bellamy had doubts on his face and said, what is it? Eddie's face was also very serious. Seriously, he said, the vault of the Grandet Bank. The Grandet Bank has several well-protected vaults in the suburbs. Those vaults store a lot of gold and silver, as well as valuables and cash. Now that we have captured the Magic Valley City, if you want power, then you need to use the wealth in the treasury to win people's hearts. Boss, do you think this is right? After hearing this, Bellamy was also very happy. Yes, use that wealth to win people's hearts. This is indeed very important, Bellamy said excitedly. Eddie said, however, we still need to plan carefully. Bellamy looked at Eddie trustingly and said, it seems like you already have a plan. Tell it. Eddie's eyes quickly the ground gave off the light of conspiracy, and he said, subordinates, the people you want to bribe are naturally our brothers in the Bellamy Pirates. After all, the foundation for everything we can obtain lies in these people who have long served under your banner, Boss Bellamy, these crew members. Therefore, generous rewards need to be given. However, rewards can be given based on the merit. After Eddie said this, everyone else in the conference room looked at him, including Sakis and Rebus. They also know Eddie's own character, and he is definitely not a money-grubbing person. He is a man who has a conspiracy and wants to do big things. But the proposition put forward by Eddie is indeed very tempting. In this way, power and wealth are gained, and first of all, given to one's own direct descendants. This is the highest level of winning people's hearts. Bellamy looked at Eddie, and then at the other senior officials in the conference room. It was obvious that these people had expressions of approval on their faces, as if they were saying it was a good thing to do. What a great idea, Bellamy said to Eddie in agreement. Eddie added, thank you for the compliment. In addition to bribing the brothers, the most important thing is to bribe the senior officers of the security army and the security force, as well as the cadres of the four major industries. Ordinary security forces and security forces can also give certain rewards. As for the people under the cadres of the four major industries, the senior ones also need to be given certain rewards. As for the ordinary ones, those who are willing to work hard can also be considered. The other people are not within the scope of our bribery. Bellamy listened to Eddie. After the plan, he nodded continuously with great satisfaction. Okay, It's true that your brain is very useful, Bellamy said happily. Eddie prepared the acquisition plan very methodically. Sakis looked at Eddie and said with admiration, "You really have great ideas." Rebus looked at Eddie and said in agreement, "You may not think you are strong in combat, but your brain is really amazing. Our benefits can naturally change many people. Even someone like Sakis who loyally follows Bellamy likes benefits. Bellamy is able to run rampant on the Grand Route all year round. In addition to his two right-hand men, Sakis and Rebus, he also has Eddie, a powerful think tank. Wisdom can often defeat pure power. The combination of strength and wisdom is even more powerful." Bellamy looked at Eddie and said, "Okay, Eddie. You will be fully responsible for this matter." Eddie looked at Bellamy respectfully and said, "I will definitely complete my mission." He was really happy. He thought for a while, but his expression became a little unhappy again. Bellamy looked at the three generals in front of him and said, "In this operation, I was responsible for destroying the Saracen United Army, but I only destroyed those terrifying giant artillery in the giant offshore dock. The only advantage of this is that I can dispatch the pirate group the fleet fought with the enemy. But what makes me feel incredible is when did Mont Blanc Kulik have so many powerful helpers?" When Sakis, Rebus, and Eddie heard this, their expressions changed. "Get serious?" Eddie asked Bellamy. "Among those people are there one wearing a straw hat, one who can manipulate plants, a swordsman with 3 swords, a man with curly eyebrows in a black suit, and someone who can use magic?" "Tall woman." Bellamy looked at Eddie and said, "That's them." "Do you think you paid attention to their information?" At this time, Eddie took out a dozen papers. "This is the wanted order made by Grandet's forces. It is not a wanted order for the Navy. After all, the Navy's wanted order only has 4 people, and the photos are different. Luffy, Rogue, Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, Robin, Fountain Goddess, Chopper, Nami, Mont Blanc, Kulik, and the apes and orangutans. All are complete." Bellamy looked at the wanted posters. "These guys are all here, and there are others I haven't seen with my own eyes." Bellamy placed the wanted posters on the table one by one. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 617. Eddie pointed to these wanted notices and said, "These are the wanted notices made by the Grandet forces in the past. At that time, I paid attention to the information of these people and obtained information in time through informants in the city. For example, Mont Blanc. Let alone defeating the 3 of them, the others are a recent foreign force called the Straw Hat Pirates. But for some reason they joined forces with the Saruyama United Army." Bellamy looked at the wanted posters and said, "A small character that the Straw Hat Pirates have never heard of. But it is indeed them. These young boys are so powerful in combat. It is unbelievable." Bellamy faced Rogue, Luffy, Zoro and Sanji, and Usopp's wanted posters looked strange. These young pirates actually have such strong fighting power. After all, Bellamy has personally fought with them, so he has a deep understanding of it. Eddie looked at Bellamy and he took out 4 more wanted posters. "These wanted orders are signed by the Navy, that is, the wanted orders for Rogue, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji officially issued by the Navy." Bellamy looked at the 4 wanted posters and said, "The ones issued by the Navy." Eddie said, "The ones just now were issued by the Grandet forces before. These are the official ones issued by the Navy. Only 4 of them." Bellamy's eyes scanned the official Navy wanted posters for Rogue and Luffy, as well as Sanji and Zoro. "Captain Straw Hat, Monkey D. Luffy, 1,000,000 Baileys. I didn't expect this Straw Hat boy to have such a high bounty," Bellamy said in surprise after looking at Luffy's wanted poster. "Pirate Hunter Roronoa Zoro, 2,000 million belly. If the swordsman thinks about it carefully, this amount is not an exaggeration." Bellamy looked at Zoro's wanted notice and said, "Blackfoot Chef, Sanji, 8,000 million belly. The guy in the suit is actually a chef, but the amount is quite high." Bellamy looked at Sanji's wanted poster and said, "Plant Warrior, Rog, 6,500 million Baileys. This is the guy who can control plants. The reward is really big. Being able to control plants is really quite a skill. Bellamy looked at Rog's wanted poster and said. He took another look at the wanted posters made by Grandet's forces, and saw that the reward amounts on them had really shrunk significantly. However, it can also be seen that the other members of the Straw Hat Pirates also have some strength. Bellamy looked at Eddie and said, the total bounty on these guys is hundreds of millions of belly. They are indeed a pirate group that cannot be underestimated. My bounty is only 9,500 million belly. In addition to Bellamy, Sakis and Rebus also looked at these wanted posters with strange expressions. It's actually so much, and my reward amount is only 1 million Baileys, Rebus said after looking at the wanted posters for the 4 people. Then my reward of 5,000 million Baileys is not enough, Sakis said calmly. Eddie said nothing. Although he played a role as a think tank in the Bellamy Pirates, he was not very powerful, so he was not officially wanted by the Navy. Bellamy turned his attention to the wanted notices made by Grandet's forces, including those of the Goddess of Spring Water and the King of Ninjas. Bellamy looked at the wanted posters for the 2 of them, his face full of complicated expressions. Although Bellamy's character has always been arrogant, he still had a clear mind when facing difficult enemies. These 2 people are really powerful. Not much worse than those 4 people. Especially the woman with long blonde hair, who can actually use magic, Bellamy said with lingering fear. Not to mention Bellamy, even Don Quixote and Doflamingo may not have seen a magician like the Goddess of the Spring who can use magic. The Magic Island is a legendary magic holy place deep in the Grand Line, with very few people coming into contact with it. Eddie looked at Bellamy and said, can use magic? Bellamy pointed to the wanted poster of the Spring Goddess and said, yes, that's her. She can actually use magic. She can control ice with just magic. Fire and wind. Is there really such a thing? Eddie was a little surprised. Sakis and Rebus also looked a little shocked. Bellamy continued, yes, she used the magic of those 3 powers. This blonde-haired woman can freeze objects into ice, use groups of wind blades to attack opponents, and turn flames into phoenixes to attack. After Eddie heard this, he frowned and said, it looks like the person you are talking about is most likely a magician from Magic Island. Magic Island? Bellamy said strangely. Yes, it's the Magic Island. It's a magical holy place in the world, deep in the Grand Route. Or in the New World in the second half of the Grand Route. Countless magic legends in history came from there, Aid said with a serious face. There really is such a thing as magic. I used to think that many naive guys were going around promoting the existence of magic in the world. I thought they were really daydreaming. But after seeing it with my own eyes this time, and to experience the power of magic, this time I have to admit that magic does exist, Bellamy said solemnly. Eddie looked at Bellamy. He could imagine that Bellamy had indeed experienced the power of magic personally. Otherwise, with Bellamy's character of spurning dreams, he would never agree with magic. Bellamy looked at Eddie and continued, anyway, we are facing very powerful enemies. Now we generally know the strength of these enemies and their respective abilities. Bellamy looking at the wanted posters again, he said, this Straw Hat Boy Luffy can stretch his body like rubber. This pirate hunter Zoro is a powerful swordsman. Hearing this, Sakis's face showed his expression trembled slightly. Bellamy looked at Sanji's wanted poster again and said, this black-footed chef, Sanji, is good at using his feet to fight. Bellamy looked at Rog's wanted poster, his expression became more solemn and he said, this plant warrior Rog, he is good at manipulating plants. Those plants can actually turn into powerful weapons, which is really shocking. Rog's use of plant weapons left a deep impression on Bellamy. Bellamy looked at the wanted poster of the Fountain Goddess again, and he said, being able to use magic is really powerful. Bellamy was shocked that the Fountain Goddess used 3 powerful magic attributes during the battle. He never imagined that there was such a thing as magic in the world. This time he thoroughly experienced the power of magic. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 619. Usopp looked at the excited Rose, and he suddenly said, "So this is how it works. It allows everyone to work more energetically." "What a good thing," Sanji said to Rog. "Okay, Robin's sister needs more fresh fruits, so Rog troubles you." Rog said, "This is no problem." While people on the giant offshore dock were busy, in the Magic Valley to the north of the city port, a powerful fleet is approaching. On the sea, 5 huge warships were heading south from the north towards the port of Demon Valley City. The largest of the 5 large warships is located in the center, and the remaining 4 are located at the 4 corners to guard the central warship. In the center is a super heavy warship that is 200 meters long. The words "New Vicky Bello" are engraved on the side of this super heavy warship. The New Vicky Bello is the flagship of the Bellamy Pirates and a super heavy warship. The hull of this super heavy warship is entirely made of fine steel, with a layer of high-quality hardwood added to the outer layer to facilitate smoother travel in sea water. On the wide deck of the ship, there are 3 huge masts. And that's not the most shocking thing. There are 3 heavy turrets on the deck of the New Vicky Bello at the front, middle, and rear. Each heavy fort is equipped with 3 powerful long-range artillery. Each of these long-range artillery has a 15-meter-long barrel and a 1-meter diameter barrel. A total of 9 long-range artillery pieces give the New Vicky Bello extremely powerful long-range firepower. However, this is just a terrifying weapon that can be seen at a glance. There are also 4 controllable anti-ship torpedo launch tubes on the side of the New Vicky Bello's hull. These anti-ship torpedoes are new products from the Dressrosa military factory and are more powerful than the anti-ship torpedoes sold all over the world in the past. In addition, the New Vicky Bello's hull is also equipped with a large number of powerful heavy weapons. The most surprising thing is that there are 2 huge chimneys in the tower near the stern of this super heavy warship. There is a powerful power machine inside the stern under these 2 huge black steel chimneys, which can be used at critical moments to make this super heavy warship incredibly fast. Bellamy was standing near the bow of the New Vicky Bello. This man with bronzed and toned muscles looked at the sea ahead with eyes full of excitement. The huge hull of the New Vicky Bello split the sea water, as if the sea shrank in the face of this powerful super heavy warship. "It's great. It's been a while since I've been riding this powerful ship," Bellamy said with emotion as he looked at the sea. Behind him is Eddie, one of the 3 generals. Eddie is also the navigator of the Bellamy Pirates. This shrewd man who liked to wear the record pointer on his right wrist looked at Bellamy and said respectfully, "Boss Bellamy, according to calculations, we will be able to reach the port of Magic Valley City in another 15 minutes. We will too." Contact with the giant offshore dock. Bellamy stuck out his tongue from his mouth and licked around his mouth. "Don't worry, I destroyed the most threatening weapon of that giant sea dock. Now our fleet is invincible on the sea." Bellamy now seems to have regained some of his usual arrogance. Although the last time they attacked the Saruyama United Army, they were defeated in a battle by many masters, but this time they used his powerful pirate fleet to attack. Bellamy believed that the Saruyama United Army could definitely be eliminated in this battle. Bellamy turned back and glanced at the vast deck of the New Vicky Bello. The powerful long-range artillery of the heavy battery pointed 3 huge gun barrels forward. The appearance alone is enough to intimidate the enemy. These long-range artillery pieces of the New Vicky Bello have not been used for a few days. This battle will definitely make you shine. Ha 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 ha. Bellamy said. Just laughed wildly. There are 4 heavy warships surrounding the New Vicky Bello escorting this huge flagship. There are 2 ships on the left and 2 on the right. These 4 heavy warships are all hundreds of meters long, and are much smaller in size than the New Vicky Bello. These 4 heavy warships are equipped with 2 heavy turrets. Each heavy turret has 2-meter-long gun bodies and 1-meter diameter gun barrels. 4 long-range guns in total. Although it is not as powerful as the new Vicky Bellows 9 long-range artillery pieces, it is still very powerful in total, and its firepower is superior to most heavy warships. Even the firepower of the Navy's heavy warships is inferior to they. Each of the 4 heavy warships is equipped with 4 anti-ship torpedo launch tubes on the side of the hull. The interior of the hull is also equipped with built-in powerful and heavy weapons. The hulls of the 4 heavy warships are also made of fine steel and covered with a layer of hardwood to facilitate smoother navigation in the sea. Whether it is protection or firepower, the 4 heavy warships are extremely powerful. The only difference between them and the new Vicky Bellow is the size of the hull. The heavy warships on the left side of the new Vicky Bellow are guardsmen and guardsmen, and the heavy warships on the right are guardsmen and Guard-No and Guard-No on the left are commanded by Sarkis. Sakis, who has long wavy blue hair and is wearing a woolen coat, is standing on the deck of Guard-No. The burly man bared his chest and abdomen, revealing his well-developed chest and abdominal muscles. Next to Sakis was a woman with long blonde hair leaning on him. This woman has a beautiful figure and an outstanding face, but there is a bit of arrogance in her face. Sakis, if you all go out like this, is the enemy really that powerful? The woman asked Sakis. Sakis looked at the woman and put his familiar big arms around her. Lily, you don't know. Those enemies are very powerful. They are a bit scary, Sakis said calmly. Sakis, who was always cold, had a gentle tone towards the woman named Lily. It's so scary. Didn't you say that you only saw their appearance on the wanted poster? Lily continued to ask Sakis. Sakis looked at the sea and sky in front of him and sighed. You have to know that even Boss Bellamy failed to win in person. He always thinks so highly of his enemies, and they are definitely difficult to deal with. Although Boss has always been arrogant and disdainful of dreams, his judgment in this matter is absolutely that's right, Sakis said with some seriousness in his tone. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 620. It's really like this, then Sakis. Let me ask you, can you win? Lily asked again. Sakis hugged Lily's body tightly again and said, you don't have to worry about this. Don't worry, although the enemy is strong. But now the core weapon of the giant offshore dock has been destroyed by the boss. As soon as our fleet attacks, the enemy is completely, you just have to be beaten passively. What's more, there are security forces on land who are responsible for outflanking the enemy. Lily nodded and said thoughtfully, speaking of that giant offshore dock. I haven't seen it yet. This is the first time, Sarkis said. Our fleet is very powerful. Especially the flagship new Vicky Bellow. Even 4 heavy warships are very powerful. But it is a pity that I am really worried, that idiot Rebus can actually command 2 ships. I'm really afraid that he will mess up the battle. Sakis and Lily turned their heads to the position further to the right of the new Vicky Bellow, where there are guard number 21 and guard No under the command of Rebus. Sakis and Rebus are the vice captain and weapons commander. As Bellamy's right-hand man, they often mock each other, believing that they are the most powerful people under Bellamy. Guard No and Guard No on the right side of the new Vicky Bellow, these 2 heavy warships are both under the command of Guy Libas. On the deck of Guard No, Rebus stood here giving command. This big man with no hat, no eyebrows, and often exposed teeth looks towards the sea and sky in front of him. He looked at Guard No and Guard No on the left side of the new Vicky Bellow. This battle is an all-out attack. The enemy is going to face a catastrophe. But I want to see how Sarkis can perform, Rebus said. Do you think so little of Sakis? Said a tanned woman behind Rebus. Rebus turned his head to look at her and said, Mani, you also use firearms as weapons like me. Do you think that guy Sakis, who can only use a broadsword, will have an advantage in the battle? Now that he is no longer a sword, this is a world where a type of cold weapons are rampant. Mani looked at Rebus and said, you misunderstood. I'm not talking about personal fighting style. It's about commanding ability. Now you and Sachis don't both command. Two heavy warships, Reba said with a bit of disdain on his face. For commanding ability, you must know that the weapons of these heavy warships are also long-range artillery and anti-ship torpedoes. I am the most proficient in this kind of gunpowder weapons. It really makes people laugh that Sakis, a man with a big sword, can command these strong ships and cannons. Mani also said helplessly, "Oh, you two are really speechless. Okay, let's fight later. Let's see who is better." Rebus had a proud smile on his face. Rebus's nickname is Arsenal and Sakis's nickname is Big Sword. Rebus himself is good at using various gunpowder weapons, like a walking arsenal, hence his nickname. Sarkis himself uses two huge scimitars, and his knife skills are very powerful and weird, so he got the nickname Big Knife. Two people with a hot weapon and a cold weapon seem to be incompatible with each other. The super heavy warship New Vicky Bello is in the center of the fleet, with the two heavy warships Guardsman No and Guardsman No on the left, and the two heavy warships Guardsman No and Guardsman No on the right. And under the water at the front of this fleet, a 90-meter-long heavy submarine lurks 200 meters below the sea surface, serving as a pioneer for the entire fleet in the sea. A submarine is a warship that can dive under the sea and conduct ambushes and battles. The submarine is equipped with a well-sealed hull and an internal air storage device, and can effectively observe the sea water and the sea surface. This 90-meter-long heavy submarine is the Ghost submarine of the Bellamy Pirates fleet. The hull of the Ghost heavy submarine is also made of fine steel and can withstand the water pressure under hundreds of meters of water. This heavy-duty submarine has a whale-like seawater throughput mechanism inside. It can inject external seawater into the diving chamber for diving, or it can discharge the seawater in the diving chamber into the sea outside to make itself float. In this way, the submarine can float up and down. At the tail of the Ghost submarine is a steel propeller and rudder. The propeller can provide power to the heavy submarine, and the rudder can adjust the direction of navigation. There is also a cylindrical tower on the front and center of the back of the Ghost submarine. A steel pipe can be extended from the top of the tower to the sea. This is a periscope to observe the situation on the sea. Inside the Ghost's tower, two crew members took turns observing. At this time, a man walked in. A crew member looked at him and said respectfully, "It turns out to be Mr. Hewitt." Hewitt had short black hair and a tattoo of the number on his forehead. He is the chef of the Bellamy Pirates. He has a calm personality and is responsible for commanding the operations of the Ghost, which has been lurking in the sea for a long time. Should looked at the two of them, nodded and said, "How's it going?" "Can you see the giant offshore dock now?" the crew member said. "We just saw the port of Magic Valley City and an object on the side. It's just that they came from here. It's too small. You need to get closer to see more clearly." Hewitt said, "Well, let me take a look." Another crew member on duty at the periscope stepped aside, and Hewitt went to the periscope himself. "Lower end here." He grabbed the periscope handle with his hand and put his eyes on the lens at the lower end of the periscope. A periscope uses lenses and light refraction to refract the scene observed by the upper lens into the lower lens. Hewitt observed the sea above through the periscope. He only saw a small port city in the distance on the turbulent sea, and something floating on the sea beside the port. Although it looks small from here, you can feel its hugeness when compared to the port. "Well, it will become clearer the closer we get," Hewitt said. The Ghost heavy submarine acted as a pioneer at a distance of 2 meters in front of the 5 warships behind, conducting advance reconnaissance. Although it is a warship lurking in the sea, it is also equipped with powerful heavy weapons capable of hitting heavy warships. The 6 main warships of the Bellamy Pirates fleet were on the sea and under the sea, heading from the north to the port of Magic Valley City in the south.